So the Constitution was barely dry before people started yelling about what it didn't say. Imagine buying a brand new house and the first thing your neighbors point out is, where's the locks on the doors? That's basically what happened. The Anti-Federalists, the folks nervous about the Constitution, demanded guarantees for personal freedoms. No guarantees, no deals. The result? The Bill of Rights. 10 amendments that turned the Constitution from a strong skeleton into a living body with nerves, protections, and limits. Welcome to our republic.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political band that kept
sailors and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not
Those three hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be.
we pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
So, why do the Bill of Rights matter? During the ratification debates, Anti-Federalists hammered the Constitution lacked explicit protections. They pointed out that Britain had the Magna Carta from 1215 and the English Bill of Rights from 1689. And so why should America settle for any less, right? States like Massachusetts, New York, Virginia basically held the Constitution hostage and said, add the Bill of Rights or we're out. So in 1789, James Madison introduced a slate of amendments in the very first Congress. He pulled from state constitutions, common law, and revolutionary grievances. And by December 1791, 10 of those amendments were ratified. Together, they became the Bill of Rights. So let's talk about the first 10. We're going to talk about these first 10 that Madison brought in, and we'll go in depth more as the days go on, right? So like tomorrow will be the First Amendment, right? So here we go. The First Amendment, though, we're going to just cover briefly, is freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. This was the founders' direct answer to centuries of government control over thought and expression. Colonists had been censored, fined, and even jailed for criticizing British rule. I mean, honestly, who wouldn't? Many had fled Europe to escape state-run churches. This amendment guaranteed that no king, no Congress, no president could silence you, muzzle the press, or declare an official religion, right? And this was radical for its time. Most nations on earth didn't allow this kind of freedom, which brings us to the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, right? I want to make this bear joke, but I'm just not going to do it anyway. Fresh off defeating the British Empire, Americans weren't about to give up their ability to protect themselves, right? Militias had been essential in the revolution. Many saw armed citizens as the ultimate safeguard against tyranny. And I think most Americans think that way now. Well, most patriotic Americans. The founders wanted a government strong enough to survive, but never strong enough to disarm its people. Okay, now we got Amendment 3, quartering soldiers. And this one feels a little odd today, but back then it was deadly serious. Under the Quartering Act, British soldiers could occupy colonial homes without permission. Families were forced to feed soldiers and house the very troops that were sent there to keep them in line, right? The Third Amendment slams that door shut and says, no soldiers in your house unless you say so. The Fourth Amendment, search and seizures. This amendment came straight out of colonial theory at writs of assistance. Those were blanket search warrants that led British officers to raid homes, warehouses, and ships whenever they wanted to, right? The Fourth Amendment demanded specific warrants based on probable cause. There was no more fishing expeditions by the government to just come in and look for what they want to see if you were breaking the law. Rights of the accused. Now, this one has a lot packed into it, right? There's no double jeopardy, which means a state cannot try you again and 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 again until they get the verdict they want. There's no self-incrimination. You don't have to testify against yourself. There's due process. The government must follow specific rules, right? Just compensation. If they want to take your land, they have to pay for it. Right? This was the colonists' response to arbitrary royal courts and property seizures that Britain was doing. And then the Sixth Amendment, which is the right to a fair trial, a speedy trial, a public trial, jury of your peers, right to confront the witness, and right to counsel. This was a direct rebuke to colonial abuse where people could be locked up indefinitely or tried in secret admiralty courts with no jury. I had to practice the word admiralty. I kept saying admiralty, but that's not a word, I don't think. Amendment 7. Trial by jury in civil cases. The founders wanted regular citizens, not government judges, deciding disputes between individuals. Amendment 8. No cruel or unusual punishment. A blatant rejection of European traditions of torture, excessive fines, and brutal executions. It was also a guard against government using punishment to intimidate rather than bring justice, right? They couldn't just bring you in and beat you till they get you what they want you to say. Amendment 9, rights retained by the people. This one's a little bit more of a philosophical thing, right? I think a little bit of jurisprudence comes in here as well, right? Like interpreting the law and studying the law. The founders knew they couldn't list every single human right. So they wrote a safety net. Just because it's not written down doesn't mean that people don't have it. Amendment 10, powers reserved to the states and the people. This was the final line in the sand. If the Constitution doesn't grant it to the federal government, the power stays with the states or the people. It was meant to prevent federal overreach and keep local authority intact, which I think we really need to examine majority of our laws to see if they do that. Guarantee a lot of them would disappear. Now, why do these Bill of Rights still matter? The Bill of Rights became the foundation of American liberty, right? Every major debate about freedom in the United States, from freedom of press, freedom to own a gun, due process, goes back to these 10 amendments. They're involved in every court case every single day. And they're not involved in everyone. They're invoked in every court case every single day. They're tested in wars, crises, and civil upheavals. And they remain the first line of defense between governmental power and individual freedom. The Constitution gave us an American government, but the Bill of Rights gave America a soul. It took raw power and wrapped it in chains. Chains forged out of freedom, speech, faith, arms, juries, and liberty itself. I really appreciate you taking time to listen. I know this episode is a little bit shorter today. We're going in depth into these amendments again, more in depth tomorrow. But just remember, history isn't boring, especially when 10 short amendments written over 2 centuries ago are still the loudest no the American people can shout at their own government. I appreciate you. See you next time.